in tonight's headlines. CLP Power has been asked to submit a report to the government after yet another voltage dip across Hong Kong. Tourism Board says the monthly pyrotechnic and drone shows will kick off at the Labor Day Golden Week next month. And Janet Yellen arrives in Beijing after 2 days of talks with China's top economic planner Lifeng in Guangzhou.
CLP Power has been asked to submit a report to the government following yet another citywide voltage dip which left over 100 people trapped in lifts. The incident at around 1:30 this afternoon affected buildings across Kowloon and the New Territories. Fire services received more than 100 reports of people being trapped in lifts. Another 30 or so fire alarms were also triggered. Elevator services at Holmanton Station were also briefly suspended. CLP says the voltage dip could be caused by malfunctioning equipment at its Black Point Power Station in Tuen Mun. The Environment Bureau expressed concerns about the repeated voltage dip incidents. It has demanded CLP to submit a detailed investigation report within 4 weeks. Under his budget this year, Financial Secretary Paul Chan announced plans to stage monthly pyrotechnic and drone shows along Victoria Harbour. The Hong Kong Tourism Board, which was tasked with executing the effort, says the upcoming spectacle will enhance the experience of visitors. Speaking on radio, Executive Director Dane Zhang revealed the pyrotechnics display will debut on May 1st, the start of the mainland's Labor Day Golden Week. The best vantage point, he said, will be the East Tim Sa Tsui Promenade. The first drone performance will follow 10 days later near the promenade in Wan Chai. Both shows kick off at 8 p.m. and last for roughly 10 minutes.
I think the important thing about having pyros or drones, it's the enhance the overall ambience in Hong Kong. We had the experience of organizing the pyros last year, and it was very well received by our local residents as well as our tourists. I do not think that just organizing a pyro or a drone would draw visitors to come to Hong Kong for that purpose, but at least that would enhance the experience in Hong Kong.
Zhang also responded to reports that Hong Kong's shops and restaurants are struggling to compete against their counterparts across the border. Catering and retail operators complained of poor business over the Easter holidays, when more than 1.5 million Hong Kongers left the city. Zhang said Easter was always a peak vacation slot for locals, but admitted people's spending patterns have changed. He tried to put a positive spin on the situation, saying the SAR is welcoming tens of thousands of visitors this weekend for the Rugby Sevens. Overall speaking, visitor numbers are now back to 72% of pre-COVID levels, and Zhang foresees a gradual and healthy recovery of the tourism sector. Janet Yellen, Cable News.
Vice Premier Lifeng and U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has wrapped up their 2 days of talks in Guangzhou that lasted 4.5 hours. Xinhua News Agency described the discussion as candid, pragmatic, and constructive. Both sides agreed to continue exchanging views on matters such as global financial stability and countering money laundering. He expressed grave concern over Washington's economic and trade curbs against China. In response, Yellen said she will continue to push Beijing to address issues such as industrial overcapacity and imbalanced growth.
It's not going to be solved in an afternoon or a month. It's going to be critical to our bilateral relationship going forward and to China's relationship with other countries that are important, and this provides a structured way in which we can continue to listen to one another and see if we can find a way forward that will avoid conflict.
The top U.S. economic official arrived in Beijing this afternoon and will meet Premier Li Qiang tomorrow. A rare 4.8 magnitude earthquake struck northeastern United States, the strongest tremor to hit the region in over 2 centuries. Authorities said no injuries or major damage were reported. A camera mounted on the Statue of Liberty in New York was seen shaking violently. Surveillance videos from various locations also captured the moment the quake struck the region. The force of the quake caused items to fall off from the shelves.
Women stood in line for 3 hours.
A meeting at the United Nations headquarters in New York was also briefly disrupted. The epicenter of the quake, which struck at around 10 a.m. local time, was located some 60 kilometers west of New York City at a depth of 4.7 kilometers. At least 11 aftershocks were recorded. Air traffic and rail services had been briefly disrupted. New York Governor Kathy Hochul confirmed there were no life-threatening situations and asked emergency teams to inspect infrastructures like bridges and airport runways. The White House said that President Joe Biden will remain in touch with state and local officials.
At least 4 people were killed and 20 injured in the latest round of Russian missile strikes in the southeastern Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia. City officials said that half a dozen residential and commercial buildings were hit. It could have been worse, as the Ukrainian Air Force said it had intercepted 13 Russian drones overnight in Zaporizhzhia, as well as nearby Odessa and Dnipro. 5 missiles got through, however. More than 2 years since it was invaded by Russia, Ukraine is still facing airstrikes on a regular basis. One of the most common shelling targets is its critical infrastructure, including power plants. Nearly 2 million people were left without power late last month after a barrage of Russian missiles struck Ukraine's energy plants. Operators have been racing against the clock to repair the damaged facilities, but the prospects are grim.
The attacks did occur at an unusual time. Often we anticipate Russia attacking energy infrastructure at the peak winter season when Ukrainians are in high demand for power because of the cold weather. But these attacks occurred around the spring. It signals a new tactic by Moscow to completely destroy Ukraine's energy security.
Amid the life and death situation Ukrainians face every day, children continue to receive education in a rather unusual setting. Over 2,000 pupils in Kharkiv, just 40 kilometers from the Russian border, are now studying underground at classrooms converted from metro stations. Ever since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, children in Kharkiv have been attending classes online. Then the idea of underground classrooms came, and they have been well received ever since operations began half a year ago. Primary teacher Lyudmila Demchenko said the children are happy to be able to meet their friends again, while the school can monitor their learning progress. No one knows when normality will return for the children, but for now, they are grateful to have a safe place to study and lead normal lives, relatively speaking at least. Ray Mingyang, Cable News.
U.S. job growth exceeded expectations last month And a strong economy has now raised doubts how soon the Federal Reserve will slash its key interest rate. U.S. employers created more than 300,000 new jobs in March, marking the biggest monthly uptick since May last year. Analysts has predicted gains of about 200,000. The unemployment rate fell to 3.8%, down 0.1 of a percentage point from February. The improvement was led by faster hiring in healthcare, construction, as well as the leisure and hospitality sectors. Average hourly wages continued to grow in March, but at a slower pace. The robust figures could potentially derail plans by the Fed to cut rates and avoid a hard landing or even recession. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell has previously stated that strong hiring on its own isn't enough to delay rate cuts. That said, interest rate futures indicated that traders are powering back their bets of a cut in June or July.
Kawhi Leonard missed his third straight game because of a sore right knee, but the Los Angeles Clippers still had plenty of firepower as they hosted the Utah Jazz, losers of 10 in a row. Despite playing the Denver Nuggets one night ago, LA charged out of the gate and showed little signs of fatigue. Even when Paul George missed on the three-point attempt, Ivica Zubac was there to clean up underneath the basket.
Clippers out in front, 34.
The second unit was then brought on, but the Clips kept rolling. Russell Westbrook found Daniel Tice for the finish as they led 54-25.
54-25, timeout.
The Jazz shot a miserable 39% from the field and 30% from distance. Colin Sexton was one of only 2 starters in double figures, finishing with 12 points. They also committed 15 turnovers, leading to 16 points for the Clippers, including 2 easy ones from Westbrook. The Jazz have been eliminated from the playoffs, and the fans now want them to tank and go higher up in the draft order. The Clippers, on the other hand, are just 1 game behind the Oklahoma City Thunder for 3rd in the West after the 131-102 victory.
To celebrate the Thai New Year, the annual Songkran Festival will return to Kowloon City next weekend. But the popular water splashing carnival, which usually takes place on the streets, will be moved to a basketball court in Carpenter Road Park. A bazaar will be held at Southwall Road instead. The move came after 2 men were arrested last year for aiming a water gun at police officers. Kowloon City District Officer Alice Choi said the new venue is much more spacious and safe, allowing participants to fully enjoy the activity. I would assume not everyone wants to be splashed suddenly when they are walking on the street, she added. In Thai culture, the act of splashing water during the festival is a show of blessing and good wishes. But Thai Consul General Shadolon Shakayam asked the public to be aware of cultural differences and respect others. He said the festival also features music performances, food tasting booths, and Thai boxing competitions. Janice Yu, Cable News.